O thou compassionate Lord, O thou who art generous and merciful, we are servants of thy threshold and are gathered beneath the sheltering shadow of thy divine unity. The sun of thy mercy is shining upon all, and the clouds of thy bounty shower upon all. Thy gifts encompass all. Thy loving providence sustains all. Thy protection overshadows all, and the glances of thy favor are cast upon all. O Lord, grant thy infinite bestowals, and let the light of thy guidance shine. Illumine the eyes, gladden the hearts with abiding joy. Confirm a new spirit upon all people and bestow upon them eternal life. Unlock the gates of true understanding and let the light of faith shine resplendent. Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and the fruits of one tree. May they drink from the same fountain. May they be refreshed by the same breeze. May they receive illumination from the same source of light. Thou art the giver, the merciful, the omnipotent.
Okay. Okay. So
కష్ట నివారకుడు ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారా ప్రవచించు దేవుడు ప్రశంసితుడు ఆయన దేవుడు అందరూ ఆయన సేవకులు అందరూ ఆయన బదులు దేవుడు తప్ప కష్ట నివారకుడు ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారా ప్రవచించు దేవుడు ప్రశంసితుడు ఆయన దేవుడు అందరూ ఆయన సేవకులు అందరూ ఆయన ఆజ్ఞకు బద్దులు.
Thank you very much.
So, Violeta, you have to tell me what to do because I don't.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what to do, Dad. Now you can start talking.
Okay, so can I click on my face here?
You can click. You don't have to click on your face
Yeah, I'm seeing your face. I'm not seeing anything.
because I'm talking. Now you won't see my face.
Well, I still see your face. I see now Siruz. So I'm not going to be able to understand what this is. But mute and then mute. Sorry. I don't understand how this works. I'm just seeing Siruz right now. I
All right,
don't
here,
control anything.
no, let me fix this. We're gonna put this like this, and then we're gonna do it like this.
I just want to be able to see everybody.
There you go. Now you can see everybody.
Are those people on?
Yes, everybody's here. Okay.
Okay.
Les 16 personnes.
Okay.
Okay, c'est bon comme ça?
How do
Now
I?
you're right here.
Okay. Okay. Welcome, everybody. And now don't kiss your father. It's no good. But can you all hear me? Okay, so I guess I'm the only one. Okay, so I'm the only one talking. I guess I don't know. Yeah, good. Thank you. All right. Violeta, are you hearing me, Violeta?
Yes, Dad, I hear you.
Okay. Well, welcome to Del Sabati, Farhang, and Anchor Quran, and Jacqueline, Oklahoma, and Vera Sami, and Aziz. I mean, you're so many. It's wonderful to see you. The idea of doing this Zoom, of course, came through my daughter, and also the inspiration from Dr. Fanan Zapir from Wazir from England. And the idea to me is very basic. Whatever I'm going to say is something you already know. I mean, most Baha'is have read so much and they're so deepened that somehow you wonder why one even decides to open his mouth to say anything. So, but the point of this presentation is to talk about teaching and about the dynamics of teaching and how do we approach the idea of opening our mouths to say anything to anybody, because it takes opportunities, it takes courage to say anything. I mean, we're dealing with people all the time, 24 hours a day, or at least 16 hours a day, from going to the store to walking down the street to taking a cab and so on. And so the question is, what are we supposed to do as Baha'is? I mean, I'm not going to get into the teachings. I'm not going to talk about the institute process. I'm not going to talk about institutions. I'm going to talk about just individual Baha'is who have a responsibility to teach. Apparently, from one reading the writings, we all know that Baha'u'llah says you have to teach. You teach, you got blessings. You don't teach, you got no blessings. I mean, I don't know what that means, but you go figure. So there must be something about teaching. Now, for teaching to take place, you have to have somebody listening to you. So I want to slowly get into that today, and if I get a chance to do another of these Zooms with more people and maybe more non-Baha'is, because my expectations are that Baha'is invite non-Baha'is or seekers or people interested, so that they can understand that we have no, when we talk of methods or strategies, we have no secrets. We have nothing hidden. We have maybe mysteries that we all need to figure out, because each one has to dig and find out what's to be found, right? I mean, not everything is clear. Everything depends on how you dig, how you dive into the ocean and get whatever is hidden in the ocean, right? There's pearls and all that. So there are efforts that we all make, and we make them individually. But there's something important about opening your mouth to teach. And it's not always easy, because we are bound to be disappointed sometimes. People are not always excited to hear, or they don't really care, or you're quick to speak, and so they don't really understand, or you don't want to get into the faith really. You say, oh, I'm a Baha'i, or some people say, oh, I'm a member of this faith, that kind of stuff. So I mean, and that may not be teaching necessarily. That may just be mentioning at least the name of the faith, which is maybe not what is really expected of us. So we have to be looking for opportunities, and each one has to decide how do you actually teach. There's this saying, one of these quotations that I don't have notes, so I cannot tell you, but it's one I say every day in the morning. that is kind of scary. It says, "O ye beloved of God," we're assuming it's about all of us. You must be the beloved of God. "O beloved, repose not yourselves on your couches." Who knows that quotation? "O ye beloved of God, repose not yourselves, yet bestir yourselves as soon as you hear what has befallen him, and hasten." Basically, God is asking you to come to his assistance and to remember what he went through, and says to speak unceasingly of him. So when you say unceasingly, just this is the point. I mean, the quotation may come to mind.
Can I read it for you?
What does it mean? Does that
O
mean that
ye beloved of God, repose not yourselves on your couches. Nay, bestir yourselves as soon as ye recognize your Lord the Creator, and hear of the things which have befallen him, and hasten to his assistance. Unloose your tongues, and proclaim unceasingly his cause. This shall be better for you than all the treasures of the past and of the future, if ye be of them that comprehend this truth. Gleanings, number 100.
Okay, so to me, I say that every day in the morning. I mean, I say it all the time. Now, just because I say it, doesn't mean I've done anything about it. I mean, we all say all kinds of things. We believe all kinds of things, but what do we do? Now, excuse me. So the problem is we don't know what this unceasingly means. I mean, to me, unceasingly means you do it all the time, like as often as you can. Now, there are times when we just give up and we just don't know how to handle things. And I want to just give you an example of yesterday, just because I mean, please stop me anytime that you have a story that is like more interesting than mine, but I just want to share something. So we were moving our belongings from the house where the school is, and we were kind of destroying all the buildings, because you have to leave that piece of land, and we are moving. I was moving my books, and I had Baha'i books and all that, and they were in a big, gigantic metal case. And the guy that was helping me move, I opened the metal, big, heavy, that had maybe 50 kilos of books, and I was trying to transfer books from that case into smaller ones so I could take it upstairs and then come down and do the transfer. So the guy that was helping me was one of my, in French, we call it surveillant. He does discipline at the school. But in the summertime, he has no work because we only have 9 months of work. So I use him to shovel rubble and to clean this and that and so on and so forth. So I asked him to move, help me move. So as I opened it, my eyes fell on 2 stacks of books. The first book the title was Baha'u'llah. So he was looking at the case. So I told him, I says, have you seen this, Baha'u'llah? Have you heard of the Baha'i faith? Baha'u'llah is our prophet. He says, yes. Somebody at the school that works for me, who is Baha'i, mentioned the faith to him some time ago, and he promised him a book. And he never gave him the book. See what the guy tells you? Just follow the story, because it's really strange, the way we function, the way we are. So I don't know why I didn't check with the other guy to see why he didn't give this friend of mine the book. So as I was showing him the book, I pointed to the book next to it, which by chance was Abdul Baha. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose. It was just sitting in front of me. So I said, listen, look at the picture. This is Abdul Baha, is the son of Baha'u'llah. I said, oh, yeah, wonderful. So, that's not teaching. But listen, hey, this was a point of starting, because sometimes when you start, you have a choice. You either start by saying the word, which may not sink whatsoever, Yeah. Why would it sink? I mean, it's the Baha'i, so what? I mean, so how do you make it sink? I made it sink a little bit because he works for me. He knows of the faith through this person that never gave him the book. He just saw the word Baha'u'llah. He saw the photo of Abdul Baha. And of course, I could have stopped right there, but I didn't. So what happened? I let him go upstairs, put the box, came down. My driver was also helping. I put my driver outside of the house because he's already a new Baha'i, but I mean, maybe not extremely active because he's learning. I closed the door and I spent 10 minutes teaching him about the faith. And of course, when you speak to Christians, you always try to explain to them who Baha'u'llah is. And one of the important things when we talk about this progressive revelation business and so on and so forth, it's very difficult for Christians who are either Catholics or Protestants or the new breed of Christians, which are like what they call, like evangelical. They call them, here they call them Église de Réveil, or they call it assemblies of God. Those are people that are pumping Christians out of both the Catholic and the Protestant. And they have a way, so they're probably easier to teach. So the Catholics are easier to teach, basically, but these assemblies are more open than the pure Protestants. They listen more. So I start teaching him, and we never stress enough that we basically are believers in all the religions, meaning that we are part of a faith that is eternal in the past, eternal in the future, meaning it is just one faith. It's one. We believe in Jesus, we believe in Muhammad, we believe in all the prophets. We are one. It's just the same faith. It's not just different faith, it's the same faith. It's our faith. We believe in all the prophets. It's just one religion. It's called God's faith. It's like one common faith. So anyway, so I try to explain about the promise of Christ and so on and so forth. But anyway, I figured I stop talking to him and see when is the next time that he's going to come and talk to me and ask me for a book. Because the difficulty when you're dealing with people that work for you, you never know if they are coming, they're listening to you because they like what you're saying, or because they work for you. They figure if they don't talk to you, or they don't become Baha'is, you won't give them a job or something. You see, so you're talking about economics here. So it's a very delicate business when you work with people that are close to you and you're very, in the same business, or they are your employers or employees. Anyway, so I stopped talking. The day went by, and at the end of the day, when I had to pay them, I had to give them a bill. I couldn't break it into two 5,000 CFA bills. It's 5,000, about maybe, I don't know, $10. Let's say $10. So I said, listen, I only have a bill of 10. So you guys, two, share the bill. And then you make change and you each get 5. So they all said yes. So I gave it to there were maybe 10 of them, 20 of them. And then they all went to shower and all this. And so when I went back to see how they were faring, there was big discussion. What happened? It turns out the person I gave the 10,000 CFA, which is the one I had been teaching the faith, lost his bill. Right? He lost it. He put it in his pants, changed pants, put it somewhere else. So the money I gave for him to share with another Baha'i who was his teammate, no money. So you figure, this guy I just taught the faith to. Why would he be the one that loses the money? I mean, what do I do? So it's very, very delicate because you don't know. He's lying, saying the truth. Did the money fall on somebody else that among the workers cheated, just grabbed the money and walked away? But nobody's going to say, I took the money. The money is found, you take it. So I had to think about it throughout the night. And this morning he came to work with the other gentleman who didn't get his share. And I figured, if I don't give them the 10,000 that they lost, how will that reflect on the faith? You follow me? Like, if I don't give him the money, what will he think of the faith? And if I give him the money, what will he think of the faith? So in the end, I gave him the money in the morning. I said, listen, and he says, thank you, because of course, for anybody that doesn't make that much money, that bill could nourish the family, I mean, I'm sorry to say, in this economy, for a couple of days. So that's the story. Now, I'm trying to figure out why this happened, but when you teach the faith, you never know what happens to those people that you teach, right? I mean, we have no idea. And we are not supposed to, maybe we're not supposed to know. They keep saying, yes, it's your spiritual son, you have to nurture them. But in the end, how do we know what happens to people on this earth? And is it our obligation as teachers, as people that have to unceasingly mention the faith, do we need to follow up on what happens to people? Now, let me just shift and say something else. When we were starting a school back in 1980, I was looking for teachers. And this Nigerian lady came to me, recommended by somebody at WHO, and wanted to work for me. And I didn't know how to use her because she had done arts and crafts and all this. It turns out that she was a nun. One of these nuns dressed in gray, and a nun that is not attached to particular whatever convent or something. She had worked in the islands near India, and I don't know if it was Ceylon or what country. And so I don't even know how I mentioned the faith to her. I ended up hiring her to work at the library and to do arts and crafts. And she was the first I hired, among other people that I ended up hiring in an American school. It's a very tiny American school that the embassy, US embassy, asked me to start for about 40 kids. So her name is Ngozi Onyekwe. So I hired her. And I don't know how I mentioned the faith and how I ended up giving her a book. In this part of the world, when you give books to people, the only book that really works is a prayer book. It's something you wouldn't do in Europe because we stay on the social aspects of the faith, or we try to prove the faith like William Sears, and explain about this and that. Here they give them prayers and they just grab the prayers and they hang on to the prayers. Of course, she grabbed gleanings and she read gleanings, and I didn't really follow up at all. I didn't follow up what happened to her slowly. But as time went on, during the few weeks or months, it turned out that by the time of the fast, she fasted. Didn't tell me. And once she fasted, she wrote the letter that I've been looking for the last 3 days to show you. The amazing declaration letter. Not people sign cards. This woman wrote a letter declaring her faith. And I have to show it to you, but I can't find. I've gone through so many things. In my, I have so many papers, although we have been moving from Zaire to Kinshasa to Brazzaville to here, from France. I have tons of stuff, all in suitcases and boxes. Anyway, I didn't find that one. I found something else from her, but she wrote a wonderful letter saying, declaring my faith. And my wife had talked to her a little bit, and she decided to accept to be Baha'i. And of course, the transformation in her was that as soon as she was becoming a Baha'i, her clothes changed completely. No longer was she wearing gray. This time she was wearing colorful stuff, all of a sudden. So that must have freaked out the people around me, because the embassy, when they start schools, they usually have the missionaries running the schools. And they hired me as a Baha'i, but didn't know I was a Baha'i. So the missionaries must have picked up on me, who was running the school, that I must have said something to make this woman change. So I don't think they liked me very much, because I ended up losing that kind of job, and I lost the school. And then as soon as they kicked me out, civil war started, and the school was completely ruined, and everything, we all gone and kicked out of the country and all that. But she became a Baha'i, and very colorful, and she was excited. And eventually she ended up, I guess, leaving for Nigeria. And I think she is among, like many Nigerians, they play this lottery to become US citizens. And I think she ended up going to the States, and she got married, and then we lost track of her. So I don't know what happened to the woman, but the point is that the kinds of things, the kind of encounters we have to seize all opportunities in mentioning the name, and we all have to create a very personal method that may be a modified method from week to week or month to month. The point is that all the writings explain, I don't need to tell you anything, it's like the Baha'is tend to call it planting seeds, which is true. You plant the seed. The question is how you plant it. How do you plant it, and how do you decide on the soil, and how do you water it, and for how long do you water it? Sometimes you don't get a chance to water it. If you talk to a taxi cab driver and he picks up on it, he may end up moving from the city, go somewhere else. He may leave the country, and you're not going to follow that person. He's not going to write you. He doesn't know who you are. And so a lot of the teaching that we do, we cannot really trace the people that we teach. But is God asking you to trace the people? Who are we working for as Baha'is? Are we working for institutions? Are we working for God? Are we working for Baha'u'llah? Are we working? What are we supposed to be doing? So one of the points that I'm trying to make is that we're going to have to find a way of being happy and excited about doing that, so that the teaching does not become something stressful, that we don't fear teaching, because it's always hard. It's like when you say, okay, let's go street teaching, you're afraid. I don't like it. You knock at doors. I mean, what do you say? Some people do it because that's how you find people. Because as Ruhiya Khanum says, and I invite you, strongly encourage you to read, of course, all the Baha'i writings. I mean, there's like billion of things that are there. But Ruhiya Khanum specifically is very direct. And she wrote Success in Teaching, which I have here as a pamphlet, but there's a longer version that explains, basically, one never knows who around you is receptive. You have no idea. Don't know. I always say to people that to find one person, you have to talk to 100 people. And since we never talk to 100, can't expect anything. See? You can't expect people to just jump at you, because the person that you're looking for, Ruhiya Khanum makes the point, yeah, it could be the person that is very old or very young or disabled or, in the gutter or a hospital. I mean, you don't know who that person is. The point is that one never knows who is receptive or who is not receptive to the faith. As I told you last time, and I'm going to bore you with all my stories, is that some of you were not there last time. I talked to certain Judy. Can I tell you the story, or are you tired of listening at this point? Lift up your hands if you're tired. Nobody's lifting it. Maybe they're not listening to me. Are you listening to me? You're tired, Violeta? You are. So what? Stop listening? You stop talking? Okay. See this card here? Okay. Okay. This is the handwriting of Judy. Now, can I tell you the story? I like to say, you may have heard it. This girl was one of these freshmen at Stanford when we were like juniors or seniors, and lived in a dorm. And we used to try to date girls, and we used to go through the yearbook to find a pretty face, and you call them up and ask them to say, hey, can we go out? And I think I saw her face for some reason, and I called her up, and she sort of basically dumped me. She said, I have to do my hair, I don't, didn't want to really go out with me at all. So that was the end of the story. For some reason, that same girl, 2 years later, was in a bus in France when I was going to study at the University of Tours as a French major. I was doing my final year at the University of Tours. And she was in that bus. I don't know if we had talked before, or just I recognized her. She had freckles and all that. And she was going to study at the Stanford in France campus, which is by the river. They had a very famous professor from Stanford that was a religion professor. And she kept talking about her future as a career, as a diplomat. I mean, big deal. Like, she was trying to make it big in the world of politics, like future ambassador and all this. And so we talked for a few minutes as we were driving. And then I didn't see her for 6 months because I was doing my University of Tours French courses, and she was doing English courses at this campus. But towards the end of her stay, or my stay, like 6 months later, I was I went back to where she lived because I wanted to see some people there for some reason. And again, by chance, I was in the basement of the building, and she was there. The same Judy. I won't tell her last name. Maybe he may not like people to know the story. And she was sitting there doing a research paper for that famous religious professor about unity. I told you the story, I think, before, Mr. Sirius. I'm sorry to repeat the story. And she said, like, do you have any ideas? Right? And I said, yeah, like a big expert, I said, sure, we have all the Baha'i faith speaks about unity, and we have the hidden words and this and that. I mean, you give all the things, just dump it on people, and she listened to it. And that was the end of it. I left. I didn't see her again. I haven't seen her since. And then months later, when I finished the program, I was in Paris. I was staying with a friend. I got my mail through that friend. I got a letter from this Judy that came to me at that address in Montrouge around Paris. And the letter says, "Dear Kamal, Allahu Abha." Now you figure, this woman was not, I would never in a million years would have thought she would became a Baha'i. And she told me the story. I can't find that letter. It's probably stashed away somewhere in a box in Saint-Tropez in one of our storages. But this is the follow-up letter to her. I read to you the first 4 lines on this one. But the story, as the story goes, she says that after you left me and you went and I got up, I walked over to the bookshelves. There was the library. It was a library down at the basement of this building where they all lived, these 20 undergraduates. I went to the bookshelves and I put my hand on the bookshelf and I grabbed the book. And that book was Thief in the Night. Now you go figure, what was Thief in the Night doing in France in that bookshelf? And you go figure, how does this woman go and touch that book as opposed to touching Le Rouge et le Noir, or Sartre's book on nothingness? Why would she do that? She opened the book and she read the book and became a Baha'i. Now you go figure that one out for me. Speaking of mysteries. She read the book, became a Baha'i, and went back to Stanford, and that was the end of it. She just believed what she read. And all of a sudden, people met her and said, "What is it, Baha'i? What? Don't you know the Baha'is here? Oh, wow, Baha'is, what are they doing?" And they explained to her what this faith is. It's not just a story about the prophethood of Baha'u'llah and how it's the return of Christ and the prophecies. It is actually, there's people, there's a faith, there's institutions, there's Baha'is, clubs, there's assemblies. Now, she got into them, and at one point, she went to Wilmette. I don't know what she was doing in Wilmette. And I don't know what happened, but she met my brother, of all people, who was hanging around there in Wilmette in the gardens. And as she was talking to him, she found out that this guy is Kamal's brother. So she wrote a letter, and she explained what happened. That I went and I grabbed this thief in the night, became Baha'i. And that's it. I never saw her since. And what I learned is that this girl and another girl, it's an African-American, I taught also at Stanford, that was not interested in the least, also became a Baha'i years later on her own. And both of these girls became Glenford Mitchell's assistants in Wilmette. You go figure this one out too. How on earth could they become so active that they, who were totally the last people on earth that would accept this faith, they are the ones that accepted the faith. And both worked for them and probably got married and all this. And so I got a letter here in 1970, which is about the same time this is very shortly after I spoke to her. All she says is this: "Dear Kamal, say Allah, I'm so happy and thankful that you received my letter." She says, "Bless you again and again." Somebody that was not supposed to accept this faith, was not supposed to, I mean, I don't know what God has in store for people. How do we know? We don't know anything. She says, bless you again and again, coming from her. This is back in 1970. Now, this is 50 years later. I don't know what happened to her. And you can't follow. We are not supposed to follow anybody. We're not done. It's not our business. God doesn't ask us to do anything. Why does he do that to us? I don't know. But if you don't do that, we are not really truly faithful to him. And it's hard to teach, but sometimes you've got to seize opportunities because you never know where this is leading. We have no idea. This faith is about many things. You know, it's about institutions, about the institute, about talking, consulting. I mean, I don't care. But the basic point of this faith, the basic responsibility is teaching. You have to open your mouth. That's all that you can do. I mean, opening your mouth is not enough, unfortunately, because you know very well that teaching is just by existing. Teaching means you've got to be imbued with the writings. I remember two things about this imbued with the writings from two people, my father and an American Baha'i that lived in Woodstock in Arizona, in New York. When I went to visit her once, I don't remember how we met because all these people I met them throughout my life. I've lost track with most people. I mean, I don't even know who they are, but she was a mother of a child. She was probably divorced, I guess. Lived in Woodstock. When I went to see her up once, I guess I stayed for a day. She says she reads nothing but Baha'u'llah's work. She doesn't want to read novels. Nothing. It's a waste of time. Now, of course, because you can be fanatic like this. My God, we have to read John Grisham and you have to read Joyce and you have to read Sartre and Camus and this billion writers, right? But, she figures, why? Why would I bother with them, I read Baha'u'llah's writings. That's all I read, she said to me. I was really very surprised of that. And my father was a very devout and Baha'i. When he was dying at the hospital, when he found out that he was going to die, because they wouldn't tell him that they couldn't really save him. He couldn't. He just had a heart attack, and they couldn't save him because he waited too long for the ambulance to come and all this. He said, "What's this? Thank you." He said, "When you're about to go, the only thing that stays with you, is Baha'u'llah's writings. That's it. Hopefully you know them. Because if you don't memorize them and you don't know a little bit about the writings, you're stuck." See, that's it. That's also the other thing dealing with the writings. That the verses, the holy verses. Suzy, can you go upstairs to my table de nuit, les tables sur Baha'u'llah? I hope I'm making sense. I'm just trying to point at few things because everything I'm saying is something but I want to stress those points. Point is that we as Baha'is are very busy with many things. I mean, all of us have projects. I mean, Jesus, I have so many projects, because now I'm getting older and I'm getting sick of my projects because you keep dropping them, you keep forgetting them, and some things become non-essential. But we can't forget that whatever else we do, we have to really immerse ourselves in the writings. If you are Persian or you speak Arabic and you can read them in the original, that's wonderful for you. If you're not, you're stuck. You have to, if you don't speak English, then you have to read them in French. If you don't speak French or English, you have to read them in local languages, monokutuba. Or you read them in Lingala, whatever. But I mean, if you have English, read them in English because Shoki Effendi translated them. So we have to find ways of getting not only to read the writings, we've got to memorize them and hopefully they stay with you. So you've got to be able to have them so that when you speak to people, Baha'u'llah tells them, if you don't say those words to the people, you're not going to have any, your words are useless because we oftentimes use so many words. We lose people. We say all kinds of stuff. It's like, we talk like we are experts, like world experts on faith or world experts on the apocalypse or about the future of mankind. We are not. We don't know anything. The only reason we are here together is because somehow, what is this? is somehow we were lucky enough to be directed towards this faith, which is an ocean, right? We got to the shores. You know the prayer that says that somehow directs people to get to the ocean, and then some of them God authorizes to actually dive or accept. You know, it's like when you guide people to this faith, there's so much you can do, but at one point God intervenes and lets people accept the faith. You know, it's not you that makes them accept, it's God makes them accept. But you are tasked, as Rohia Khanum says, we point the direction. So we've got to know the writings because you've got to give it to them. And you can't be using a book because you look ridiculous if you stop like this and you start reading a book in front of somebody. They look at you like you're totally, you know, it's not good. But if you throw out things like let's say the easiest one is what? The earth is but one country. The earth is but one country and mankind is citizen. Well, the earth is but one country and mankind is citizens. Hey, listen, it's nice. I'm smart. You know, that has power. That has power because that you didn't make that up. But you got to do that. You can't say this is a faith that believes. No, leave that for later. Just give them the holy verses that came down from wherever, because we have no idea how Baha'u'llah revealed. We keep hearing that, you know, they came down, boom. And if you're in the room listening to that holy verse coming down, apparently you would be knocked down dead on the floor. That's what we were told by people that were witnessing. So that thing is a mystery. How God speaks to people, for heaven's sakes. How do we know? How does how this book came into being? And it came down in those languages that we should know, but we don't because we have no time to learn them. We are busy doing other stuff. So if you know those writings and you can give them, like you say, okay, the earth is but one country, or you can say, so about this, the light, I keep even forgetting the words. So powerful is the light that it can illuminate the whole world, you know. So you give people simple things. We cannot get involved in giving people sophisticated, complex writings. Like I keep getting on my internet here, somebody in France is sending me every 5 minutes, morning and evening quotations. But those quotations are so mystical that will turn people off. You can't give the people those things, you know. They say so many things about God that people reading it will freak out. So you've got to really give simple things. So that the whole point of teaching is just being, transmitting those words that person that you should be listening to as opposed to talking to. And then you sort of say, listen, wow, well, we also believe in our Baha'i temples. I've seen in the temple in Uganda, there are books. The Holy Bible is there and the Quran is there because it's books of God. But this is more. This is what Baha'u'llah. Rohia Khanum was, when I was reading a talk in New Zealand by Violette Nakhjavani, I just found it in my archives. She explains to people when they ask her about the faith, what is the faith compared to the other faiths? She says, well, the other faiths are like building a house, build walls, wall 1, wall 2, wall 3. And Baha'u'llah came to put the roof down on the building. You know, he just came to complete the building. Now we got the building, and it is the same faith. It's the same house. We are in the same house. There's no Baha'i and no Baha'i. You can't say no Baha'is because everybody's a Baha'i, basically. You know, maybe they don't know it. They'll know one day, because it is the faith of God. It's one faith, not two faith. It's the same sun. Sun is one. God is one. If you believe in God. If you don't believe in God, then you drop it. You just leave it, because you can't convince anybody about anything. So when you come to tablets like this, I'm going to show you an example of tablets that are so. If you go back to, I mean, I'm just jumping from thing to thing. If you read the excerpts from other tablets, the very first one is too powerful. You can't share that. But if you take the first line of every paragraph and you stay there, can I do that for you? And you see how interesting it is. It says, and you can maybe remember that and share it, but don't say it because the rest is too heavy. So you say, the first paragraph says, God testifies that there is none other God but him, and that he who hath come from the heaven of divine revelation is the hidden secret, the impenetrable mystery, whose Advent has been foretold in the book of God. Okay, so again, it's a promise. It's that's what we believe. He has been foretold. He just this didn't come out of nowhere. He's been foretold. And then it says the second paragraph. I'm not reading the whole thing, just the first line. Second line is, "Blessed is that strong one who will shatter the gods of vain imaginings." Wow. So what are these vain imaginings? You know, refer to Shawki Effendi. What is these vain imaginings? What are these gods? The third one talks about the Afnan, but the third one says, "O people of the earth, whatever you have been promised in the books of your Lord hath appeared." So then they've got to know what was promised. I mean, if it's a promise, we should know what the promise is. And then he says, the next paragraph, "This is the day of meritorious deeds," meaning you got to do something good. Whatever you do, just do deeds. Ruhi Khanum apparently says that one of the things that she loved to do is environment. She just loves indigenous people and teaching and environment. So deeds, what are you doing for the world? Do something. The next paragraph says, well, it talks about the Afnan, says, "Well is it with thee, inasmuch as thou were honored to receive my holy verses." So receiving the holy verses is very important. So give it to them. Give them the holy verses. I mean, why wouldn't you give it to them? Why would you keep it to yourself? Don't do your verses. Do your word. Just give you the holy verses. The next paragraph, the beginning again, "Persevere thou conscientiously in the service of the cause." Service means assistance, and assistance means teaching. "And may his glory rest upon thee and upon such as have drawn nigh unto him, and apprehend the meaning of that which the exalted pen hath recorded." Meditate and see if you can get the meaning. The point is that the meaning, when you teach, you can't interpret the meaning. They get the meaning. Each one gets his meaning, because Baha'u'llah gives the words and nobody understands what he's saying really unless you really meditate on it. We have no secrets. In Africa, sometimes people think that people that meet together and discuss faith, they're like doing magic work. We have no secrets, we have mysteries. Mysteries is for anybody who is smart enough to do some digging. And each one does it according to his capacity. And there's enough food for everybody. So we have to make effort to really be, as my father says, when you're about to die, all you have in your heart is Baha'u'llah's writings. We have to do all we can in our own private rooms, to actually immerse ourselves in the writings, chant them, intone them in any language. And if you are imbued with it, then it's probably much easier when you come upon somebody to talk about the faith. But then again, when you talk about the faith, my example at the beginning was I showed this man a book that said Baha'u'llah, and the other book had a picture of Abdul Baha. It may be that this day and age, we are not radiant enough to attract people by walking down the street and people jump and running after you to say, why are you like such a lamp, Maybe it's very hard. But if you have a hat or a button that says Baha'i, maybe that will be, because these days it's all about stuff that we're marketing, we're just words. Anywhere you go, it's Starbucks is here. It's McDonald's is here. I mean, that's why we go to McDonald's if you're hungry and we don't have enough money to go to fancy restaurant, get ripped off. So you just eat junk, for $5. So if it says Baha'i, at least you might start a conversation, because if you're not going to start it at all by just being your radiant face, because somehow these guys are not looking at your face because they don't know, they're wondering why you're looking at them. Have something around you. Have a Baha'i book in your hands. When you open it, maybe somebody says, oh, Baha'i. So we have to find ways, because we are stuck. The responsibility is you've got to open your mouth. You can't open your mouth if you have no, and then when you start getting into discussions with people, you've got to stay simple and avoid the complexities, because as soon as you get to complexities, you enter into arguments. You got to really stay simple, like talking to kids. Now, I wrote, if you don't mind, see, this is my iPad. You don't see my iPad, but you see it. Okay. I used to do a lot of Scrabble on my iPad, but I got this is, no, it's iPad is here. But now my iPad, my Scrabble, this is an old iPad. My daughter and my wife have brand new ones. I have an old one. So my Scrabble is great. I love it. But it's an old Scrabble, you know, so it's better than the new one. I love it. But because it's old, it's not renewed. I get stuck. Because when they do apps, when the new ones, they worsen it. They make it look ugly. But you're stuck because if you want to get the old one, you can't have it because you won't give it to you. But mine is good, but now it doesn't work. I can't access it. Anyway, so I wrote in in the sheet where I have my scores. Let me see if I can find it. Jeez, where is it? Okay. I said I wrote notes for this talk. I said the fascinating subject of teaching. It's just fascinating. It's very scary because it's hard to do. Then I said pointing versus preaching. You want to do what Ria Khanum says, you point that way. You know, that's you know, it's a good place to go. Go see these people. My parents in Morocco, I remember one day when they were teaching the faith, because it was difficult to teach, it was not authorized, you have to be careful. They would send somebody to another city and they said, go visit this family in Larache and talk to them. See what they have something there that you're interested in. The guy would go. Say, trick, why not? You can do it today. You can send somebody from LA to Las Vegas, you know, but I mean, in those days, you have to be very tactful and you would send people over. So that's one way of doing it, by pointing the finger, So I said, you know, arguments and debate. You don't want to get into arguments and debate. And you don't want to raise subjects that are going to create havoc. Like I remember we're teaching in Corsica with my wife, who is a very active teacher and was pioneering in Corsica, Susie, who is next to me here. She's not next to me in Zoom, but she's right here. French Baha'i, one of the rare Baha'is who pioneered within the country, and was a tough place to be. Very eminent Baha'i, son of a Baha'i, raised the subject of the death penalty. You can't raise subjects like death penalty in the Kitab-i Aqdas because you're going to get wiped out. So you avoid controversial things. You know, you start the unity of faiths. You know, we have to establish bonds. People have to love this faith. And once they, like, you know, you don't feed a kid, a 2-year-old, a steak, a filet mignon. You can't get filet mignon, you eat it later if you're not vegetarian by then, but you can't. So you have to go small. You don't talk about controversial subjects, you talk about simple things. What bridges the unity, oneness of mankind is the same faith of God. We believe in all the prophets. Look at what Baha'u'llah says about Jesus, just open cleanings. Nobody says as beautiful things than Baha'u'llah about Jesus. It's amazing tablet. Just have to read it. I mean, he wrote so much about Christianity, you know. So, and then it says we have no secrets, we have no magic, we have only mysteries, and the mysteries everybody can have them. So, what I said was the qualities in teaching, in my opinion, humble opinion, is patience and silence and listening. You've got to just not talk too much. You've got to let people talk as much as you've got to say something. I mean, you can't just say mute, right? It's useless, but you have to talk. But they've got to do the talking. Let them talk and be silent and not talk too much and listen a lot. You have to listen and you have to be very humble. I mean, humility comes up. I just was looking at, it's all over the writings, but I saw in one of the tons of messages House of Justice sends that we never read enough because we read them and we forget them and we pile them up and they're like become a stack thick like this. And we just don't read the details and we're not reminded. But one of the things that I read just today by looking at something like 2009, spoke about humility, you know, humble. You have to be humble. Nothing better than humility. We are not humbled enough. We really are. We just have to be very humble. It's so important. And so humility and of course the knowledge, you have to be immersed in the knowledge and you've got to be simple. You know, simple is what? Is Abdul Baha. You just make it simple, not complicated. You have to be very kind, generous, help people, and be hospitable. You've got to be that. That's what the Baha'i is. I mean, you can be, like somebody comes to you and says, oh, give me $1,000. Being a Baha'i doesn't mean, oh yeah, how much you want? 1,000? Sure. And you know, because you're going to go broke. We can't do that. But we've got to decide how can we be generous? How can we be kind? Generous is with time also. generous with time means you listen. You're really, you have time to spend. So you have to have the time. If you have no time, it doesn't work. And patience. And then another point was beauty. I remember Hando de Cos Faizi, I think, when we're in some school in France or something. He said the reason why people don't become Baha'is is because we don't make the faith, we don't make it beautiful. It's like the standard of the faith is beauty. You know, you look at Bashoki Effendi, how he would select the buildings, the architecture, the gardens. Look at our houses of worship. It's all beautiful. So when you look at the Baha'i prayers, you chant them beautifully. You don't chant. You can't do prayer. You're going to scare everybody. So you don't do that. So it has to be beauty. Beauty is colorful. We have to make things nice. And he was saying, Mr. Faizi, that somehow maybe we in France are not really putting the faith under the beautiful colors to make it. We're not writing it like a Victor Hugo would write it or like Verlaine would write it to make people excited. We make it in such a way that people are not easily, don't approach the faith because we are not making it in our speech, in our writing, in our speaking. We're not speaking with eloquence. We're not chanting it with beauty. So the standard of beauty cannot be forgotten when you talk about faith. Just as Baha'u'llah says, you've got to be clean. If you have spots in your clothes, your prayer doesn't go up. I mean, why does he say that for? Because apparently it's some mystery. It's physics. You know, we got to listen to what he's saying. Because if things don't work, we have to see why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because you don't open your mouth, because you don't pray, you don't immerse yourselves, you're not patient. You talk too much like me. I'm talking so much right now, but you're stuck because I'm the one doing this Zoom, so you have to listen to me, although you're going to interrupt me soon. So, and then you come to this receptivity business, which is a mystery because you don't know who's receptive to anything. You know? So you plant the grains. So planting is good, but then how are we planting it? Who do you plant it with? You plant it with your next door neighbor or somebody just you met in the train and you never see ever in your life again. You know, so you have to decide how does one plant. So I don't know that either. You got to be careful that whenever you're teaching the faith, we will never agree on how we teach if you're two together teaching. There's no way on this earth. If I'm teaching with somebody, the one next to you would probably want to correct you because he doesn't think that's the approach. So that's why you have to teach one-on-one and be alone, because if you're two, you're cooked. Because, oh my God, why is she talking? Oh no, shouldn't have said that. So don't. Just avoid being with dear brothers and sisters because it's like, look at it as your own obligatory prayer. You know, like I teach on one, I'm not going to be teaching with my neighbor. Although apparently team teaching is good, you know, so I'm not going to knock down team teaching. I'm just telling you, just be on your own. And you know, and this faith, you got to make a choice. Do you talk about the principles? You talk about the laws? You talk about the councils, or you get into mysticism? So that's the beauty of teaching, is that you're empowered to do it. You have carte blanche. Nobody's supervising you, right? This is the beauty, is that I don't care. No institution will ever supervise any individual Baha'is teaching unless they're a team teaching. So the only person watching you, if you believe, is God. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. See, we come to this faith, and this is what Baha'u'llah has done to us. He has removed from us all the leaders of religion that have corrupted religion lately, at least. Baha'u'llah didn't have many nice things to say about leaders. So, no authority from any individual, no authority from individuals, just you and God. So, when you're teaching, He's watching you. And He'll bless you, and you'll get feedback. I'm getting notes from, am I getting something here? So it's individual. So it has to be something that you both, I'm sure that each one of us has been teaching, and you probably have more experiences than I have in teaching. I just wanted to share some of my own very personal experiences in teaching, and the reactions that one gets. Like, you know, like we were invited by the president of Zaire, who passed away now a long time ago. He's Mobutu Sese Seko. Have you heard of Mobutu? You all heard of him, right? No? Yeah. Anyway, he invited the Baha'is to come and visit him because he thought that we could vote for him, I guess. I don't know. He put us on a plane. I was part of a delegation of 4. And we went up to his palace, and you have no idea, in the middle of the desert, the bush up in the jungle, what he built. The amazing luxury. You just have no idea what it was like. Anyway, we're sitting there, and his doctor was a Persian doctor for many years, Dr. Jazab, for many years. And I guess he mentioned the faith to this man so many times. Every time he takes his pulse, he probably say Allah, power, or something. But that didn't stop him from being who he was. Oh, here's Mobutu. Yeah, anyway. So he invited us, and we were up there. We even had dinner there. He had a French cook, an amazing French chef, and the lady that managed the airport when we landed was a Belgian woman that was sort of stopping the planes. Anyway, as we were speaking, I told him, I says, you know, in this faith, we have a beautiful prayer about unity. I don't know why I mentioned that. I had to just say something. So I was trying to show him the prayer book. The guy's been taught by Dr. Jazab for years. I don't know what he taught him. I don't know what he remembered. But anyway, I figured, let me just have his eyes gaze on the prayer itself. So I tried to find the prayer, but this French prayer book is so difficult to find. I couldn't find the prayer. I kept looking through the pages. I couldn't find it. I was so upset. And as I was looking, somebody called him. So he had to go. He said, excuse me, I have to go. So he went out. By the time when he was gone, I found the prayer, so I put it in front of him. I was sitting next to his right. So he came, he opened the prayer. He read it silently. He like memorizing it. Oh my God, unite the hearts of the servant. I heard that maybe this prayer may not be authenticated. Lately, I heard that maybe it's not official prayer. But anyway, we're using it all the time. And then he closed the book like that, and he says, page 64 or something. That was the end of it. So, I mentioned the faith to him, but did I plant a seed? I don't think so. Because, the man he had the Jazab for 40 years as a doctor. That didn't stop him from doing whatever he was doing in Congo, He was like a successor to the King of Belgium who ripped the country. So you mention it to people. Let's say I was doing research on a French author when I was doing my degree at Stanford. His name is René de Obaldia. And we always try to mention the faith to anybody because you never know who's gonna react. Like you don't know. So how do you know? So you put a word, you give a book, you do something. So I mentioned to this man the faith. I don't think it sank at all. But sinking or no sinking, he became member of the French Academy. He became member of the French Academy, which is the Immortals. And he's still sitting there today. I haven't talked to him in 40 years. And he is 101 right now. So maybe the fact that he heard the word Baha'i have got him up to become member of the French Academy, which is for the 40 immortals, as they call them. And maybe he's living that long because he heard the faith. I don't know. Maybe something happened. But, again, I stopped doing research. I stopped working in the field of French Lit. I just managed to get my degree and come to Africa, so I lost track. So the point is, sorry. You've got to, it's like, I'm not saying it's a game. It's very challenging. You've got to all of us, and maybe it's time for you to speak and share your story. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to people. And then you all have a collection. I mean, if you were doing the Zoom like me, I'm sure that Mr. Siruz or Madame Turan Javid or Jalal Ihsani would have tons of stories to tell. But I was hoping that we get, that's not happening because I don't see maybe non-Baha'is, that we can get in, if I do this ever again and you are there and you bring people that want to know how Baha'is really teach or what are they talking about, that by having them participate and listening to whatever you or I say, that they may leave this Zoom with the idea of wanting to actually pick up a book, pick up something, and because there's an urgency. This is not very good for Baha'is who are so deepened in the faith to sit and participate, because you know more than I do about the faith, and you've read more books than I have read. So we're trying to have to find those people that are close to us that we can have somehow invite them to come to this Zoom so that we can actually spread the word, and that people will eventually understand here that this faith is really open, that we are actually all one, and that by discovering what Baha'u'llah has said and connect them to their own book, that they may be maybe attracted to this faith. Okay, you guys, the floor is yours. Who's that? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. So, Mr. Aziz or Mr. Valet or Mr. Pete, California, no, Pete is in England, or Turan Javed or Valet Abbasi or Sudabe, who's probably there, and Shirin and Jacqueline and Mary Chikala. I don't know where they are from.
Hello. Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. No, I was just sharing the story you said about the 40 immortals in France, and I shared a quotation from the Long Healing Prayer. Let me change my phones 1 minute.
Aziz, where are you now? You're calling from where?
This is a Kenyan in London. I know Jale. I know a few people on this call.
Oh, you're in London
Hi,
now.
Jale.
Oh, you're in
Yeah,
London. Okay. You're from Kenya?
Yeah, I'm from Kenya originally, but I live in London, UK.
I'm going to tell you a story about Kenya when I finish, because you will be, it's a story about being mugged in Kenya, but you should know about it. It's wonderful.
Okay.
I was with Baha'is, yeah.
No, I was just saying this idea, the idea that perhaps someone who's come near Baha'i prayer book has been blessed. And I was sharing the quotation from the Long Healing Prayer, where it says to protect the bearer of this tablet, and whoso cometh, recites it, and whoso cometh upon, or passeth around the house wherein it is. So if you carry your prayer book and you around, you're probably praying, because people are coming close to the prayer book, and therefore they are blessed.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yes, yes. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, Nairobi, Kenya, yes. Yes, yes. Mr. Aziz, thank you so much, Aziz.
Thank you.
Sudabe, we're not hearing you. Are you there?
Oh, no. Okay, you read my mind. First of all, thank you very much indeed for sharing your very personal and heartfelt some of the stories with us. I wish I'd made some notes, because my memory isn't as good as it used to be. But, we know people who actually, I'm sure we've come across people who actually pray every single morning to meet receptive souls. And at one stage I heard you say, we never know when we're going to meet a receptive soul. But there are those of us, or those Baha'is who pray ardently every morning to meet receptive souls. And I've been told that actually, because they pray to meet receptive souls, whomsoever they meet, they believe that they've been sent by Baha'u'llah that day to be either told the name Baha'i or Baha'u'llah, or to form friendships so that they can, through living their life, teach the faith. And I've also known Baha'is who say that, as far as they are concerned, wherever they walk and wherever they live or work, because they are Baha'is, their sole purpose is to mention the faith in one form or another, in whatever situation they're in. And there lies the wisdom of, if you're sitting on a train, do you mention the word Baha'i and Baha'u'llah? and go a little bit further because you're not going to see that person again. But if you're living in an apartment, a block of apartment buildings or on a neighborhood, do you live and live the life and teach by example? So there's just a couple of thoughts that I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to share. It's easy to share the word Baha'i than it is to just picking up on what Sudabeh has said. To live as an example, when you live in a block of flats, for example, I don't live in a block of flats, but when people know you're Baha'i in a block of flats, you've set yourself a very high standard to live as a Baha'i, so that people say this person is different. Are you the one who is always clearing up the mess around where you live? Are you the one doing until people recognize this person is different? It can be quite difficult to live the life when everyone is observing you to see you fail, when they know that you're a Baha'i, for example. And therefore, perhaps mention with someone I'm a Baha'i. I share this because there is a Baha'i, someone who is seeking to learn about the faith in our community now, who somebody at work told him, you look like a Baha'i, you sound like a Baha'i. And she said, what's that? And said, Google it. So the person went home and Googled Baha'i faith. And she's been calling us to find out more about the Baha'i faith, joined our Zoom. So sometimes if you don't know what to say, just say I'm a Baha'i, or you look like a Baha'i. And perhaps it maybe that is the only word they're looking for. And then I also know a story of someone who said, for example, they were listening to BBC Radio 4, and at the end of a conversation, one word was mentioned, Baha'i. They went home, Googled Baha'i, and they became Baha'is. So it's not sometimes what we say, is that the time for that person might have come. So just mention anything. If you don't know what to say Google it. If their heart is calm, they may go and search on the internet, what is the Baha'i faith? So you may not have the words, but you have perhaps the word you say, they've gone away and they've looked into it. So we don't know. I don't know if this one will become a Baha'i, but I know of one who said they had on BBC Radio 4, at the end, the last word was Baha'i. So I just missed the program. They were talking about Baha'i. What's Baha'i? And became a Baha'i. So you just never know. These are real stories. We have one in our community right now seeking because someone told him at work, you sound like a Baha'i. And perhaps this Baha'i didn't know what to say next when questioned. He said, go and Google it. And this happened. So don't be afraid.
Correct. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey, Dad.
Yes, ma'am.
What Aziz said just inspired me. Can I share something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Aziz said something just really incredible. He said that we don't know what stage of seeking that person is when we're saying it. And we don't know if we're planting a seed that's going to bloom in 6 months or 10 years or 20 years, or if we're at the end of that person's spiritual journey and we just did the straw that broke the camel's back, the drop that made the glass overflow, that very last word, Baha'i, who made them Google and made them seek, seek, seek. So that just reminds me of this really famous story that everyone's already heard, but I love it and I'm going to say it anyway. You have a series of like 3 workers and you have someone walking by them and they ask the first worker, what are you doing? And the guy's like, I'm just cutting stone. And then they walk to the next worker and the worker's like, yeah, I'm just building a wall. And then the other guy's like, I'm just building a building. And then the last one is like, I am building a cathedral where the mention of God will be praised for 1,000 years. That's the stages of seeking. Like, Baha'i, that's just a word. Oh, Baha'i, it's kind of a religion. Oh, Baha'i, it's a big religion. Oh my God, Baha'i is this? I need to know more about this. And there's that story of the guy who for years and years and years carried these pots, and they each had a crack in them. And he just was like, just carrying water. But over the years, the little drops that were falling from the cracked pots built a garden around where he was walking. So this man, unaware of it, was spreading divine fragrances. And over the years, these little individual drops that he dropped wherever he was walking on his path have built these flowers that now depend on this. So we do not know at what stage each person is in their seeking. And what Aziz says is so powerful. We just don't know. And that is what faith is. There was a family in Cameroon that was pioneering, and they were joking. They were saying to the auxiliary board member or the counselor, I can't remember, they're like, we pray and pray and pray and pray, and we really honestly no seekers come. We feel like the prayers are being stopped by the ceiling. So whoever that was they were talking to said, well, they were kind of like in the school of Amatul Baha directness. They were like, where if you feel like the ceiling and the wall are stopping prayers, walk around the house. So the Baha'is were like, whatever, we'll just walk around the house. And they were walking around the house saying prayers. And everybody in the village was like, what are these crazy white people doing? And so they got their first Baha'is. So I don't know. That was pointless, but funny.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Sorry. I was reading, I just found the book. Have you seen this book? Sorry, I was going through my stuff. If you don't, maybe you should try to find it. It's called Why They Became Baha'is. Have you ever seen it? Wow. I was reading. Let me just. Yeah. Oh, this is a story of all kinds of people. Richard Marlowe, Luli Albee Matthews, and anyway, it's all these behind tell their stories. Of course, that will give you an idea of how those people, how they found the faith, who taught them the faith, you know. And if you go through those stories, it's like how my wife was in some sort of school, and she left her hometown and went to a place in Paris, and where she was, like in some sort of dormitory or something, the woman there taught her the faith and took her to the Baha'i center, and she fell in love with the faith and became a Baha'i. You know, if she had not gone there and met this woman who taught her the faith, would never ever. So, you know, it's like the people that I mentioned the faith, I didn't think they would ever become a Baha'i. They became Baha'i. So again, all of us. Sorry. No, it's you've seen my face. Even if you see my nose, you know it's me. We have periods of teaching and periods of kind of not teaching. You know, you sort of sometimes you kind of get discouraged. You know, because we live in Africa, so we don't have the same kind of experiences these days that you would have teaching in England or in New Delhi, or, you know, like I was teaching somebody that was very close to him, and he was working for me as a driver, and he was a taxi man before, and I gave him so many books to read, and he became a Baha'i, very active Baha'i. I mean, active in the sense that he speaks nicely, eloquent about the faith. But in the end, he had a foot in the faith, and he had a foot in some sort of occult sect, you know. So I'm saying is that he figured he gets the benefit of both getting the blessings from being enrolled as a Baha'i, being a member of this faith, and yet he would practice. But, you know, I only found out about this like maybe 4 years later. So that somehow, I mean, you get those kind of experiences, it kind of cools you. I mean, you know, but you can't. I mean, because if we are going to be touched and disappointed by the way people act, or they make you believe, and you count on them, and then you know, then it's going to deprive us of continuing to teach. So we have to be extremely detached from that and continue teaching. And you know, and not all Baha'is, I mean, are going to be equally enthused about teaching. You know, I mean, all Baha'is don't have the same level of, you know, as Shoki Effendi says, you know, the distinction between Baha'is, it's a very funny one, but I mean, it's there, is that the Baha'i faith, for some people, is their religion, for others, it's their life. So, you know, go figure this one out. I mean, you know, some people just, you know, they are members of the faith. I mean, they probably do very active. They contribute. They go to feasts. They do a lot of stuff. Other people, it's just that they are there. They could be like Martha Root. And Violeta will tell you more about Martha Root in days to come. So, I mean, are we supposed to be all Martha Roots? Why not? Who says that there can only be one Martha Root? Why? Why would she do it? Why would And then you read about Ruhiyya Khanum, the kinds of things she did after the passing of Shawki Effendi. He had told her that after he passed away that she should be traveling. And she went all over the world. I mean, can you imagine the kind of all the meetings she had for years, everywhere? I mean, and Martha Root all over the world teaching nonstop. So, we can't all be, Martha Roots, but because I guess we have, but then in the end, you sort of, if you put yourself, perspective from God, what does God want from any of us? Does He want us to build big businesses and to become famous as surgeons or as teachers or as, I don't know, architects or whatever? Or does He want us to be like Martha Root, just goes around like crazy and teach and talk to the whole world? Because when you look at it, if you read some of the things that I think we mentioned last time, where Baha'u'llah was implying that we should double our numbers every year, and Abdul Baha kept saying, each one should teach one, and that way the world would have been Baha'is, which sounds like easy stuff. I mean, all of us here could teach one person a year. My God, I mean, you don't tell me that you're not going to find somebody in 1 year, 365 days, that will accept the faith. But we haven't done it. Because had we done it, mathematically, the world would have been Baha'i by 1956. But we didn't. We can't. We just don't. So is that part of what God's sort of plan is, that the world is going to have to go through this apocalypse and this precipice and all these viruses are going to be hitting us, and then God is going to sort of, send us more punishment? I mean, I don't know. God is love, and God sends His wrath on the world because He wants people. He's putting us on this world to get close to Him. Yes, I mean that's the point of life. So, and I always sort of go between what's the point of our faith? Is it to establish the kingdom of God on earth and the world order and administrative, for the next 500,000 years? Or is it to get close to God, so when you go to the next world, you enter those places where you can get close to God and be part of that, those hundreds or thousands or millions of people that are, and what are we going to be doing in that world over there when we get there? For the rest of eternity, are we going to be doing what? If we have taught amazing like Martha Root, what's our lot over there? And if we haven't taught like Martha Root, what are we going to be doing? Is it going to be a section for the Martha Roots and a section for the non-Martha Roots? How are we going to, what is the baggage we are taking with us? What are we carrying with us? Is it just our belief? Is it our actions? Is it our qualities? What are we doing? I mean, what is all this about? So makes you think. I mean, to be on the safe side, in my opinion, you got to open your mouth as much as you can, even if people don't want to listen to you. You got to give them something to read. You got to just pray a book, a pamphlet, something, an invitation. I mean, I don't care what it is, And what you give, how many? 1 a day? 5 a day? 10 a day? Why not 100 a day? Why not 1,000 a day? Why are you going to be ridiculed? I don't know. But then you have to interpret. What does Baha'u'llah say when he says mention unceasingly. I mean, a guardian doesn't make mistakes in writing. If he says unceasingly, it means that you don't stop. But I mean, what, you're going to be, you can't sleep anymore? You're going to be walking down the streets day in and day out? No, but I mean, obviously not, but you know, but unceasingly is different than zero. Because zero is not unceasingly. Zero is zero. And it's easy to do zero. Like today, I think of myself, did I say anything today? And the question is, today, yesterday I did something because I knew I was preparing the talk, so I opened my mouth yesterday because otherwise I would be talking to you today. I would feel ashamed of myself. So I was proud that I went through my thing yesterday with Monsieur Comono. But today I didn't. Even the taxi man that dropped me off, I always meant, because we take taxis every 5 minutes here and we always have like 5 minutes to talk to them. And we never give them anything to read, which is dumb because we don't have enough pamphlets. Because when you point out the name of the center, say, this is where we pray, or this is the faith that unites the world, he sees the word Baha'i. But if you could give him a brochure or something with the word printed, that's what you should be doing. We should all have like cards, even if you don't want to give your own name, your own address, your phone number, because they might maybe call you or pester you, whatever. You can give them, and you know, like a web page, or give them the word Baha'i, or even there, better yet, I would not even put Baha'i. I would have a blank card and just write the word Baha'i by hand. So it's a gesture, because by writing Baha'i, as opposed to giving me a printed card with the word Baha'i, it's more personal. Say, listen, but you have to have the cards in your pocket. You have to have a pen. If you have no pen, you have to ask him for a pen, which is kind of stupid because you're not equipped. So have a pen and the card, and then say Baha'i, B-A-H. By writing it, the guy says, wow, Baha'i, I never heard of it. And people, many people will tell you, you think the world now knows about Baha'i. You'd be surprised that the majority don't know the faith. And once they see it once, they see it again. They keep saying, you know, like when somebody mentions to you something, right? From then on, you keep seeing it all the time. But before that, you've never seen it, ever. So if you mention Baha'i, and you write it by hand, and you put Baha'i org, and you put your number if you want to. If you don't, just don't. And you give it to the person, even if you haven't given him a pamphlet or a brochure, or you haven't given him a book or whatever, because you know you can't be giving books to everybody. That to me is good. Is good. I mean, you have to sort of see the opportunities. You can't be doing that to your dentist. You can't go see a dentist. And some people do. Some people are just will talk to anybody, but some people are afraid to do it. Say, my God, I can't say to my dentist. As you pay your bill, you just give him your card with your Baha'i. He's gonna say, well, because if you don't do it right, people will take it badly. You know, I mean, if you don't do it correctly, you could spoil it for people. And the next time that person that you didn't correctly speak to, he hears it again, he will not want to hear it. So, and since you never know who's talking to who in this world, we have no idea what's going on. We just sort of take our chances, and we hope that the person you're talking to was not turned off by somebody who said something to him, or you know. So, but to be on the safe side, you've got to just talk to as many people as you can, and by being yourself, smiling like Mr. Aziz. Mr. Aziz has a nice smile. He's smiling all the time. So smiling like that is going to win. He's going to get everybody attracted to the faith because he's smiling. Look at his smile. Look at him. See? As he's smiling, nobody can resist him. Now Siruz is smiling too. Because we have to keep smiling to people, you know, because that's the safe thing. By having a smiley face and being kind to people and nice to people, then when you mention the faith, you know, they're going to have a good, you know, vibe about this faith, because it is difficult not to like the faith. You know, it is very difficult when you see the kinds of things, the basic teachings of oneness, and you see the Baha'i houses of worship, and you see the Holy Land, and you see the beauty of some of the writings. It's hard to really knock it, you know. Some people are arrogant, you know. You teach, like I give an example. I was teaching to this Lebanese guy. I shouldn't have mentioned the faith to him, but anyway, I thought I would make him happy. I brought him a prayer book or hidden words in Arabic to read, right? He's a good man. He's a pilot. He has a company here. And I went to his office and I wanted to share it with him. So I went and I showed him the writings and he read it. He says, I can write better than that. You follow me? I can write better than that. So anyway, that really, I just shut my mouth. I didn't say anything. Within a week, his parked plane was jammed by another plane. You follow me? His plane was parked. Some other plane came and rammed into his plane. Now, because I cannot say this cause and effect, but he probably got insurance and somehow, but so you sort of wonder, did he open his mouth the wrong way? Was that why his plane? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say any stupid things, but all of us have these experiences with things that happen to us where we begin to see, because there's something else that is connected to this teaching business, is divine blessings. How each one experiences God's blessings. Blessings meaning that in great, this is the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Help in peril. This is the short prayer. What's the help in peril? I mean, Jesus, peril is peril. Is you're going to die. He comes to help you. So assistance, God assists, and each one can point in his life at specific times. How can God came in and made things happen for you? Things where it was not going to happen, and you keep saying doors opened. And all of us can experience. And sometimes it is related to teaching, that if you are really busy doing God's work, God is watching. How is God watching? I don't know. I never found out. Is God watching Siruz Mahmoudi? Is he watching Munir? Is he watching Jaleh Ehsani and Valeh Abbasi and Aziz and Mary Chikala and Sudabe? Is he watching all of us? He's very good. If he can watch all of us.
You didn't mention me. I guess he's not watching me. I'm off the
Because,
hook.
because,
And Violetta.
because FN, you have to put your name, because FN sounds like
That's my sneaky way of that. I'll be off the hook.
You have to be.
That's so
Even if
funny. That was so
even if-
funny. Oh my gosh.
Look, Turan Javid is there. I can see Munir Farhang Bijani. Anyway, yeah. So God is watching all of us. Now, how does he do that? I have no idea. What are we going to say to the God who's watching us when we end up going up there? I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, so in our Baha'i experience, there's many things we do, a whole bunch of things. I just wanted to, the whole point of this discussion is not so much for you, because you know more than I know about this, is hopefully to attract, if you ever could do this again, we have to get non-Baha'is online here, but non-Baha'is that Baha'is bring, because we don't want to get strangers coming in, because if you get somebody, like let's say you get a biblical person that doesn't like the faith because he believes that we are all kind of weirdos and what we believe is wrong, and then he's going to be listening, and there'll be 100 Baha'is and one non-Baha'i who is not invited but who's not seeking and who wants to just show you that you're wrong because he's going to quote all the writings, and we're going to keep telling him, listen, we are not trying to convince you, we're just trying to propose, to offer an option. Say, okay, what option? Jesus is not, you cannot say those things, you have to stop talking, so it becomes extremely unpleasant kind of Zoom. So we don't want to do this kind of Zooms. We want to get the Zooms, if we do this again, to get people that are seeking, that will get another glimpse, because somebody else is going to say something interesting, or we're going to point to a quotation that's interesting, that will leave with a different understanding of what the faith is, because sometimes they have no idea. They may think that this faith is too occult, or that we are very weird, we don't, we do strange things, or we are not really believers in Jesus, or we don't like Muhammad, or we don't like, whatever. So that's my hope, is that we can bring non-Baha'is into this picture. Now, I have no idea. Maybe this will never happen, and maybe we won't be able to do that, because the point is not just talking about teaching. The point is that as we do this, we actually teach, and we get feedback from the persons listening to us, that they they share with us their own their concerns and their own interest, and maybe express that they like what they hear, or they would like to know more, and then we send them to other places to learn about it. But I don't know if that's feasible at all. All right. I think I kept you for a long time. We started at 5, it's 6, soon it's 2 hours. I don't know. I see Shireen, I see Mary Chikala. I don't know if they're there. I don't know if Farhang is there. I don't know if Mahtab is there. I'm not used to this Zoom business. Violeta, my daughter, is the Zoom expert. Oh, now I see. But I don't see her name anymore. I don't see. What happened to her? Yeah. Anybody wants to say a last word? Anyone? I see a lady that I haven't seen before right here. Siki? Right here.
Oh, Mari Chikala.
Oh, Mary Chikala. Hello. Hi, Mary Chikala. How are you? Okay, Mr. Siruz, anything you would like to add? Or Madame Ehsani, anything you want to add? Aziz has spoken already. He's very courageous. Yes.
I want to say one
Aziz.
more thing. I want to go so shortly, but I wanted to say about the story of teaching. It's very, I mean, I joined because it's a story of teachings that I really like.
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I don't know if he would be disappointed if I mention his name, but there's a young man I met once, quite a few years ago. I'm actually older than I look, by the way. I met a young man from Cameroon, and he told me how he became a Baha'i, and it's such a moving story. So he was in a park looking for a job. You know, you go to a place where people sit to wait for a job, or someone comes say he's looking for a painter, or, you know, so he couldn't find a job, and these people came and they were talking to him. These people happened to be Baha'is, and they were talking about the Baha'i faith. He was not interested. They showed him the pictures of the gardens, the beautiful Baha'i temples, and he was not interested. And then they opened the picture of Abdul Baha. He said, "Hey, I know that man. I know that man. He was in my dream last night. Who are you?" They had been speaking for 45 minutes. He was not interested. Showed him all the pictures, the temples, not interested. They were opening the book. They sees the picture of Abdul Baha. He says, "I know this man. He can't be from you people. He showed me the way. He told me where I'll get a job." And then he became interested. Only when he saw the picture of Abdul Baha. They had showed him everything. They had spent half an hour talking. I'll talk to him next time I join your call and say, "Can I say your name?" So he can tell you the story directly himself.
Good. You have to bring him on.
Moving story. So sometimes it's not what we say, how we say it. Just say something. But to me, this story just tell me when I'm looking for like opportunities, what can I say to someone that might, it may be the picture, it may be the word, it may be whatever we say. So I hear this, I just think we should have a collection of stories of teaching, you know, how, and they should have their name on it so we can actually say, these are not made up, these are people, real people behind these stories, and we know who they are. Yeah,
Wonderful.
I wanted to add. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Aziz. Thank you. Madame Valeh Abbasi, wants to say a prayer, because we don't want to keep you any longer. We have other things to do. Madame Abbasi, would you like to say a closing prayer? Or anybody has anything else you would like to add?
Sure, I would say prayer.
Yes, Valeh Abbasi, please.
و لبها ای خداوند مهربان، این دل را از هر تعلقی آزاد فرما و به هر بشارتی شادمانی و از غیر بیگانه و خویش آزاد بمان و به محبت خویش گرفتار فرما تا به کلی شیدای تو گردم و دیوانه تو جستو نخواهم جستو نجویم و به غیر از راه تو نپویم و به جز راز تو نگویم و ماننده مرغ سحر در دام محبت تو گرفتار کردم شب و روز بنالم بزارم و بگریم و بگویم یا بخالا پا یا بخالا